Today I'm with Dr. Trudy Dantis, who's the Director of the National Centre for Pastoral Research. And we're talking about the launch of local and national consultation being held ahead of the next session of the General Assembly of the Synod of Bishops in October. Pope Francis got the ball rolling in March 2020 when he set the theme for the Synod, which was for a synodal church, communion, participation and mission. Then there was a consultation in Australia and other countries in 2022, and the first assembly of the Synod took place in the Vatican in October last year. So Trudy, what's happened since that last assembly?
Well, Paul, a lot has happened since then, and I think there were two publications that came out that are really important. The first one was the letter to the people of God. So this was a letter from participants in this session outlining the work that they did, sort of the discussions that they had, but also giving thanks for the experience and really extending that hope to everyone in the hope that everyone can sort of be and continue on the journey with them. The other publication was the synthesis report, and as you've seen, it's quite a large report. It's got about 20 chapters, and in each of those chapters, there was information about matters which we all agreed on as participants, but also proposals for what could occur next, and some other matters for consideration that needed further reflection.
Mm-hmm. And what's happening next in the Synod process in terms of the Australian contribution?
Sure. So the 2024 consultation is happening in two tiers. There's a diocesan consultation, and leadership teams in diocese are invited to reflect on the question, how can we enhance the differentiated co-responsibility in the mission of all the members of the people of God? And there's two sub-questions. So it's really talking about what sort of ways of new structures or relations do we need to make it possible to recognize and shape that co-responsibility, or what ministries or participatory bodies might need to be renewed to better enhance that co-responsibility. So that's at the level of diocese. And then a second level is at a national level. And here, groups at a national level have been asked to reflect on the question on relations between churches and the relationship between the conference and the universal church, to try and find out what's the sort of dynamic balance that's needed between the dimensions of church as a whole and the local church as well.
Mm-hmm. And why is the consultation needed? I mean, it's a bit like going back to the drawing board in some ways, but it's not. Is that right?
That's correct. The General Secretariat is really has made it clear that it's not going back to the grassroots. We're not doing everything that we did in the last 2 years all over again, but it's really building on that experience. So in the previous stages of the Synod, we focused on communion, participation and mission, and we said a lot about what needed to be done in those areas. In this consultation, it's really focused on mission and co-responsibility, and we're invited to have a deeper reflection on those two areas.
Right.
So still within the theme of, how do we need to be a synodal church, but a deeper reflection within those two areas.
Yep. And what will happen to the material that you gain out of this consultation?
Sure. So the dioceses have been asked to invite leadership teams, like I said, in their dioceses, but also in parishes, to reflect on those key areas. And once they receives those summaries of group reflections, they will create a diocesan summary and send that to us. Similarly, at a national level, groups will also provide us with their input after they've reflected on those questions. And we will then create a national report, which we need to send to the Secretariat.
Right.
Now, along with that, dioceses are also invited to send in testimonies of their own synodal journey that's occurred over the last 2 years. So those testimonies are not going to be summarized, but will be provided in their entirety to the General Secretariat. So it's a direct link from each
Right.
diocese to the Vatican.
So it's a sort of anecdotal type evidence?
Yes, it's basically the journey they've been on. Some dioceses have had diocesan synods, others might have changed their structures or ministries in the diocese to, again, better
Yeah.
equip co-responsibility. So it's basically just trying to understand what journey each diocese has been on in the various contexts that they are in.
Right. And so we have the assembly in the Vatican coming up in October.
That's right.
What are some of the other things that are happening ahead of that time?
Sure, there's a lot happening at many levels in the church, Paul. We did know earlier, we identified that parish priests, for example, hadn't been involved to the extent that they should have. And so we've recently heard about the announcement of a gathering of 300 parish priests in April and May that's coming up. There are other matters that were identified at the First Assembly that needed the Holy Father's approval. And so we're seeing various meetings happening between dicasteries and experts and other sort of international meetings to discuss those topics further.
Right.
And like we said, we'll also get the data now from dioceses, so that's very exciting as well. So there'll be lots to look forward to in the coming months.
Well, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you.